first speaker, Sister Maryam Al Khawaja. She works for the Bahrain Center for Human Rights. If I may request her to do the introduction, and then we get on to our next speaker, and I'll introduce him accordingly. Thank you very much. Please welcome her warmly.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm going to start with a very brief introduction about Bahrain. I'm sure a lot of you already know this information, but just to debrief it again. Of course, as we all know, Bahrain lies in the Middle East, right next to Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The size of Bahrain is 3.5 times the size of Washington, D.C. And the capital is Manama. These are different pictures of Manama city. Bahrain was also known as Dilmun and the land of a million palm trees. And you find that there are many different aspects in Bahrain which actually most tourists will recognize. So when I show these pictures, a lot of the tourists will actually go like, yes, this is what we see in Bahrain. There's the Pearl Roundabout, the Tree of Life, different beaches. Of course, Bahrain is known as the only island with no beaches because none of them are public, they're all privatized. There's the fort, and the bridge between Manama and Apartheid, and the famous Al-Khamis Mosque. Michael Jackson, of course. Now here you have a picture of the king of Bahrain and the crown prince, Salman. Here you find the different, now there's a whole different aspect to Bahrain that a lot of tourists actually do not get to see when they visit Bahrain, or actually even live there for several years. And that is the excessive violence used by the riot police against demonstrators, peaceful demonstrators, people who go out on the streets to ask for their rights, be it employment or housing or whatnot. Here you see the different members of the riot police using the tear gas and rubber bullets against demonstrators. Now there are massive demonstrations in Bahrain for several reasons, which I will get to very soon. But here I'm displaying how these demonstrations are met by the government. Now as you notice, I don't know if you can realize, but a lot of the people in the riot police are not of Bahraini nationality. This is how the crowds are dispersed by the riot police. And of course, the young people are arrested. This child was shot with a shotgun bullet, which basically disperses hundreds of shrapnel, and it lodges itself under the skin. It's very, very difficult to get out of the body. Different demonstrators get beaten with batons by the riot police, which leaves these kind of marks on the body. Now, to move on to the topic of why people in Bahrain feel the need to demonstrate or to go out on the street to display their grievances. We find that there's systematic discrimination, apartheid, and marginalization against the Shias in Bahrain. The population, according to a January 2008 government statement, is 1,050,000. Now, of that 1,050,000, 1% is Jews, Christians, Hindus, Baha'is, and different religions, and 99% is Muslim. Of that 99%, according to also government statements then, 70% is Shia, 29% is Sunni, and the 1% is other religions. Now Shias represent approximately, as I said, 70% of the population. Shias in high-ranking positions in governmental institutes only rank 13%. Now if you notice the difference between the population and how many of them actually have high government positions, you find that there's a very big difference in numbers. Now, the government of Bahrain keeps talking about the reforms, the democratic reforms that they're undergoing, but we find that in recent years, actually, the situation has deteriorated. In the past, the Shias used to have 18% of high-rank positions in governmental institutes. In 5 years, it actually became lower, and it went down to 13%. Now this goes against democratic reforms as stated by the government. The percentage of Shias in security-related institutions, in the Bahrain Ministry of Defense, the Bahrain Ministry of Interior, the Bahrain National Guard, the Bahrain Special Security Forces, all 0% Shias. They're not allowed to work in these different institutions. The Bahrain Special Security Force consists of around 15,000 people. and they are all newly naturalized tribal Sunnis, brought from places like Yemen, Jordan, Pakistan, Syria, and they are used on a daily basis in suppressing demonstrations and protests and raiding Shia villages. Percentage of Shias in other governmental institutes: the Bahrain Ministry of Cabinet Affairs, the General Organization for Youth and Sports, Central Informatics and Organization, Survey and Registration Bureau, Bahrain Royal Court, the Crown Prince Court, all 0%. Now for 70% of the population, this is a growing concern that they are not allowed to work in any of these aspects of government. Percentage of honorary students graduating high school. 78% of honorary students in Bahrain are Shia. Now, one of the excuses the government has been using in Bahrain of why the Shias do not have high-ranking positions is that the students basically do not have the qualifications for their positions. So the Bahrain Center for Human Rights actually went and did some research, and we found that on the other hand, it was actually the opposite. The Shias actually had the higher percentage of honorary students graduating from high school. The proportion of Shias at Bahrain University was 70%, which goes in accordance to the population as well. So this excuse of the Shias not having the qualifications for these positions, it doesn't make sense. Now, comparison between the Shia representation in leading positions of the public sector and percentage of Shia honorary students in high school, you can see the difference: 78% and 13%. Religious and sectarian apartheid. As a practice of segregation, there are certain areas in Bahrain where Shias are not allowed to live. Of course, this is not a written law, but it's something that is practiced against the Shia. So there are certain areas in Muharraq, in Thura, and in Rafah where the Shias are not allowed to live. Economic and social discrimination. Shias compose the highest percentage of the country's unemployed. The government employment centers encourage or force Shias to work outside the country. And educational, social, and municipal services in most Shia neighborhoods are inferior to those found in Sunni communities. Percentage of Shias in judiciary system. The percentage of Shias in the constitutional court is only 18%, and the percentage of Shia in the judiciary system is only 5%. Now this is shocking, according to how many Shias there are in the population. It's also worth noting that the criminal branch and the Attorney General Office are known to be used effectively to detain and harshly sentence Shia activists, as we witnessed today in Bahrain since August 13th. The percentage of Shia in executive power. It used to be 29%, and now it's 20%. So again, the Bahraini government says that they are currently undergoing democratic reforms, but we see rather the opposite. We see a deterioration of the situation. Demographic change. In the past approximately 10 years, there have been more than 100,000 newly naturalized Sunnis brought into the country, and as we said, they are mostly used in the riot police and different sects of the security systems in Bahrain. And part of this is because they want to turn the majority Shia into a minority. I think it's also worth noting that even within the educational system in Bahrain, you find that the Shias are systematically discriminated against. I myself was a student in high school and university in Bahrain, and I was forced as a Shia to sit in class and listen to the teacher tell us that we as Shias were not real Muslims, and that we practiced Islam in a wrong way, and that this does not go with Islamic tradition or Islamic teachings. And I was an adult and I found this very, very disturbing. So imagine a 10-year-old child who has to sit in class next to his Sunni peers and listen to the teacher tell him that he is inferior to his peers because he is Shia. I believe that this is part of why the instigation between the Sunnis and Shias socially has become a part of the problem in Bahrain. Because before 100 or 50 years ago, 200 years ago, socially being Sunni or Shia was not really a problem. But because of the instigation that the government is putting through the media and different parts of society like education, it has become a more social problem. And this will create more problems in the future because instead of becoming just a problem with human rights or the Shias versus the government because of the discrimination carried out against them, it's also becoming a social problem between the Sunnis and the Shias. Thank you.